attempts at intimacy and also at peace. Now, if you're being honest with oneself about yourself, you know, of course, exactly what I'm talking about. Now, unfortunately, it's during relationship interactions, the most emotionally charged part of your life, that the place where you have the greatest personal stake, when your bad spirit can leap out of you, in effect, understand this, in effect, affect personal, understand this, personal through your own negative attitudes. You're unconsciously bringing about everything that you most wanted to eliminate. Even the most normal, intelligent people can resort to the most spiteful behavior when dealing with those who they claim to love. Now, I want to remind you again what we're really dealing with, and that is the most emotionally charged part of your life, the place where your greatest personal stake is. And understand this, that is relationship. Everywhere you go, you are dealing with nothing but relationships. Now, there can be an astonishing hostility and cruelty, childlike defensiveness, pathetically immature reasoning, accusations and counter accusations, blaming and shaming, exaggerations, and also denial. So when your bad spirit comes roaring out, you're the most disconnected from your core of consciousness that you can get, and you have totally moved away from the feelings of worth and dignity and cast yourself as a victim. Now, you may ask yourself, how do I act like a victim? Especially when you're in the middle of an argument with someone and someone says you're a victim. You say, well, how am I a victim? Let's go back over my notes again. I want to be sure that you understand that when your bad spirit comes rolling out of you, you're the most disconnected from your core consciousness. Now, I really want to repeat this because I want you to make some notes about this, that you can get. You have totally removed away from feelings of worth and dignity. So when you remove your feelings from worth and dignity from yourself, and you're disconnected from your core consciousness, you, brothers and sisters, you, my friend, you, lady, you, man, you actually see yourself as a victim. Now that you understand that, remember when I said I needed to make some notes from the things that I've heard, people coming to the office and people doing the show. Actually, you actually become a victim, and you don't realize that you become a victim. Now, most of you find this side of yourselves so distasteful that you cannot even face it. Now, you have what I call a stockpile of denials to justify and explain away the terrible behavior. Now, you like to think that instead that you are a person when things are going well in your relationship and you act mature, giving, flexible, and democratic, but your bad spirit is always there. Then you may feel like, I'm the most reasonable person on the earth. But as told you, that all of us have a tendency to disconnect from our core consciousness. And when we do, we actually become victims, and you will struggle. And in the midst of that struggle, you like to think instead of how you are when things are going well in your relationship, and you act mature and giving and flexible and democratic, but your bad spirit is always there, always lurking. And it's during those times when the water gets rough, when you get frustrated, you threaten and hurt, that you give into your dark side, allowing this ugly side, who you are, to take control and can cause your relationship to fail. Because you're struggling, you're swimming, the water is deep, the water is rough, and you are struggling. You are struggling, man. You are struggling, woman. How are you struggling? Because you're frustrated, you feel threatened, and you feel hurt. And that dark side is going to come out, allowing that ugly side of you that you really have tried to manage and control to come out of you, and it's going to cause your relationship to fail. Not some of the time, brothers and sisters, but all the time. Now, regardless of what else may be right with you, that relationship, your bad spirit, if left unattended, remember what I said, bad spirit left unattended will poison every fiber of your relationship and seal its fate. Now, make sure that you hear me real good while I'm talking to you right now, because you may be thinking that well, I'm not always the sunshine and light, that I may have some sort of bad spirit and always I'm always the sunshine and the light. Sometimes I may have a bad spirit. But if you understand this, take reassurance in the fact that you're not the only one that's crazy. You're always not the one of those crazy, yelling abusers. Let me assure you that you can be just as destructive with a bad spirit that does not have that dramatic expressions that some of us have encountered. Like, you're not yelling, you're not screaming, you're not being abusive, but that comeback, that mouth, that snap back, that slap back can be just as destructive. Now, I want you to remember that, just as destructive. Now, what's the difference between a man who gets frustrated and abuses a woman physically, and a woman that gets frustrated and abuses him with her verbal? Verbal abuse can be just as bad as physical abuse. And in many cases, abuse is happening in these relationships. All kinds of relationships, whatever you want to call it. We just have a platonic relationship. Well, sometimes I think platonic relationship really means I'm restraining myself from having a romantic relationship. For all of you people who like to call your platonic relationships, we're just friends. Yeah. Yeah. You may not be getting the benefit right now, but it doesn't mean that the benefit is not on your mind. That is something totally different. So I need you to make sure that you hear me, and I want to make sure that you hear me real good. And I want you to and be rest assured that these things are in us, and we've got to deal with them. Now, are you about to learn something, brothers and sisters? You're going to learn something tonight, and I want to make sure that you understand this. There's a variety of ways that a bad spirit can express itself. Now, while some of you may have in your mind have a flair for dramatic self-destruction, that can sink a relationship overnight, just like a gaping hole, brothers and sisters, in the bottom of a boat that can sink in just minutes. Others self-destruct with a style that is more like a slow leak. The slow leak may not always have the entertainment value to your friends and neighbors and in-laws who stand gapping and gaping when a wild-eyed bad spirit controls the day. But it's just as surely as I am sitting here, as surely as your name is what it is, and relentlessly drains the life from your relationship. In other words, you don't have all the fanfare. You don't put on a show. But what you do and what you say drains the hell out of that relationship. It drains it so bad until sometimes it never ever really gets back in order. And you will become more and more and more controlled by your internal negative attitude. In effect, you would unconsciously bring about everything that you most wanted to eliminate, and most likely you won't have a clue to what's going on. You won't have a clue to what's going on. You are not being victimized. You are not the victim, but you are surely the slow leak in that relationship, and you won't have a clue as to what's going on, because this aspect of yourself can be so devastating that you can't afford to be defensive about it or pretend that it doesn't exist in hopes that it will go away. Nor can you rely on traditional conventional therapy, in which you spend sessions after sessions with someone trying to understand where the attitudes come from, doing some analysis and perhaps of what your mother and father did to you. That can be entertaining mental masturbation is what I call it. But it's little less. Now I want to go back over that again, because before I ask anybody else to reason with me, this is going to make some sense, and my assistant is going to help me a little bit by sliding just 2 chairs on one side of me, because this is going to be important. Because I want to understand how people really feel about this. And I want to repeat it because I want you to really think about it as I am going to really talk about it. And it's okay. It's okay that we, my assistant is going to bring some seating with me, because there are definitely some people that I want to ask that question to. So they're going to bring me a couple of chairs right here. Like, just get up and Amos, just bring me that chair. It's fine. Just bring me the chair. One on each side of me, because I want to invite a couple of people to kind of talk to me for a little bit. So Jeff and Tamara, I want you to come here and join me, because I said something that I think is going to be tremendously important, and I want to be able to repeat it while you sit beside me, because this is going to be important. So come on and sit beside me, because I want you to kind of hear this. I want you to hear this. I said a slow leak. I call people, now I said that some people are not just dramatic, the neighbors can't hear it, the in-laws don't know about it. So you may not be dramatic and devastating, but you are surely a slow leak. A slow leak. You're not that gaping hole that sinks the ship in minutes, but you a slow leak that takes the wind out of a relationship day by day, time by time, with your attitude and feeling like a victim. Now, here I go, and I want you to really listen to this, Jeff, this part, on the notes that I've tried to make on the show from hearing people, and also from people coming into my office, right? Okay. As a therapist, so I started to think about this. There's an aspect of every person that can be devastating, and you can't afford to be defensive, because everybody that comes to my office is always trying to be defensive. And I noticed that while we were sitting here talking in the shows, that people spend a lot of time being defensive. They want to make sure that's not me. I've heard people say, I don't do that. I don't even think like that. Oh, I don't feel that way. So we spend more time being defensive about it and pretend that it doesn't exist in hopes that it's going to go away. Now, on the other side of this, we really can't rely on traditional, conventional therapy, in which we spend session after session with someone trying to understand where these attitudes come from, doing something to understand some analysis perhaps of what your mother and your father did. That can be entertaining mental, what I call entertaining mental masturbation. Yes, this is therapy saying that sometimes I feel like people are just sitting down being entertained. You are having an entertaining mental masturbation, and it does little less. Now, I can't change whatever happened to you in your childhood, and many have influenced the way that you are behaving right now, and you can't change that either. The important thing is to realize that you are not a child anymore. Even though these things happen, you're not a child. You're not a child anymore. You are now an adult, and you have the chance to choose what you think. You got a chance to choose what you feel. You got a chance to think about and change what you do. And you have and even though you had a tough history, I'm sorry to hear that a lot of people had a tough history of childhood drama, trauma, relationships. And I really mean that I don't mean to make light and minimize the suffering that you have been through in your life. And I've heard stories that are so horrible that it makes me physically sick to my stomach when I really hear some of the things. But if you, in one of these stories, and understand this, I absolutely hate that for you. But the only thing and the worst than having these terrible things happen to you in one phase of your life or another, and life and mentally and emotionally, is carrying those terrible events and feelings into the next phase of your life. Now, if you're one of those who suffered through such an event, now you can't hide behind it. You can't use that as an excuse to justify your dark side. And if you do keep hiding, then you'll just keep the suffering alive by transplanting it into your current life. In other words, a lot of things are just being transplanted. You're dragging it from one situation to the next situation, and then your excuse is, if you only knew what I've been through, if you only understood the things that happened to me. But life is about decisions, choices, and relationships. And somebody's got to put pause on you and actually say, you got to think about your actions and how are your present actions as an adult hindering your current life, your current relationship. The hopes you have for your relationships is that must be willing, and you must be willing to meet your bad spirit. That's what I call it, a bad spirit, face to face, recognize it, and how it manifests itself in your behavior, and then quickly get yourself out of one mind, out of one mindset before it does the greater damage, and then you will never analyze your bad spirit away. Now, you just need to take time and get ready to knock it back before it starts to consume you. And the best thing and the most effective therapy that I know, indeed, and I don't want you to run from your bad spirit. I don't want you to I want you to know on one thing, and that is that self-defeating mature is in you so badly, has matured in you so badly, until if we don't face it, we'll never get rid of it. That's the best therapy that I can give you, is to face it. Don't hide from it. Don't make an excuse. Face it. Don't be in a relationship and be defensive about anything. Face it. Now, I've said a lot so far. And I want to know how you guys feel about what I said. I want you to talk to me from a woman's heart about what I said. Like, how does that make you feel as a woman? And when you think about things, Jeff, as a man, how's that making you feel the things that I said? Now, remember when I told you I'm not going to give you some mental masturbation as a therapist. I'm not going to give you that. I'm telling you that you are a woman. You are an adult. And now you can make decisions about your behavior. What you will allow in your life, what you won't allow in your life, what you want to think about. You're in control of your thoughts. There is thought replacement therapy, right? Instead of thinking about that light, you can think about that fan. Right? Thought replacement therapy. You can change the dynamics of your environment anytime you want to, because you're in charge of your thoughts. What do you think?
Steve?
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Can you give just a tad explanation on that mental masturbation? Just a little bit. What is that?
That's a great question. Mental masturbation is when the therapist spends time going back and back and back about what mommy did and what daddy did and what happened to you as a child, and then you spend session, and you keep repeating the historical scenarios of one's life and what they did to you and why you are acting the way you're acting and those things. Whereas a good therapist will get to a point where we've uncovered that some things have happened to you. Now, the best therapy in the world that comes is when we get you to face it.
Okay.
And you make decisions instead of giving you mental masturbation. I don't want to entertain people with mental masturbation. You coming in and I'm just, well, how does that make you feel?
Is that like a scientific term for real? Oh, okay. All right.
You know when people are talking to you, when you're talking to, let's say you and Tamara was just in this traumatic, and I say traumatic because it can be very traumatic, this relationship and this marriage or whatever it is, and she's telling you, you just don't understand what happened to me and why I'm doing the things that I do, and you promised that you'll be there, and then she wants to sit and she wants to go all the way back into her past and tell you all kinds of things. You're giving me mental masturbation. Because let's talk about some decisions now, because I'm not your father. I'm not your last husband. Although you are treating me as if I am, and you are now acting like a victim. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other thoughts as a woman?
Well, based on what you said, just thinking about what I've been through, well, it kind of runs deep for me, and it definitely showed me in terms of my decisions. So not really facing or really dealing what has happened to me, I can see where, yes, I've carried it into relationships.
Now I want to identify the it. So the it is a self-defeating nature. And if it's as much as a toe of that self-defeating nature that tries to slip into your life, you got to recognize it and you got to stop it. You got to recognize the self-defeating nature. It's so funny. Amos and I were going over his artistic work of the clips and things that he does for me, and he was asking questions about words that was going to run across the screen and things like that. And he was being facetious. He was carrying on. And I realized that he was giving me mental masturbation. And so I just stopped, right? Because, you want these triggers to come up, and I am not a victim. Like I am not this self-defeated person who cannot think, right? You're not going to put me in that position where I'm now flagging around in some water and I can't swim, because and what people do is they will throw questions after questions to you, if you ever notice. And they'll make you feel like you are drowning because they just keep throwing questions at you. Or they'll make statements, or they'll dig way back in the past and say, just like when this happened, and just like that one happened, and you're still the same, and your daddy was this way, and your mama did that, and your nephew was in jail, and your sister is on drugs, and look at you, and then you're beginning to feel that self-defeating nature, because my whole family is a mess.
Okay.
And now I'm gonna be a mess. And she just keeps hitting you, because now you a mess. And she said, you're a mess. You're just like your brother. You're a mess. You're just like your Aunt Susie. And you say, I am. Not me.
But I would say, well, if we have not dealt, or like as you say, faced those things, then yeah, we're going to feel victimized. We're going to feel like, that I am my Aunt Susie, or yeah, I am acting like my, my uncle, whatever the case may be, because we go through life. Well, I'm going to speak for me. We go through life and we put things in the back burner. We don't really deal with it. It's kind of swept under the rug until something happens in a relationship, and not just a romantic one, but just in any relationship. It triggers.
Oh, I gotta tell Jeff this. Jeff, while you weren't here, I said something. People always talk about, no, we're not lovers. We have a platonic relationship. And I said, that can also mean that you are hiding feelings of sexual and romanticness with the person. So that person can say that I'm just your platonic friend, but all along they really want to do you.
Tell me.
They just want to do you, Jeff. You want to take that polka dot shirt off and just do it.
That's true.
So I that again. That's another mental masturbation. That's another form of mental masturbation. So now you're gonna sit there and play with my mind, huh? I just want to be your friend. No, you don't.
No, you don't.
No, you don't. You got a mind to become more than that. And now you playing with my mind, right? And you waiting for a weak moment. And when that weak moment comes, you're going to be there, and I'm going to fall for you, and we're going to go upstairs to the bedroom, and we're just going to tear each other alive on the floor right here in the kitchen. My friend, get your butt out of my house. You dismissed. Because you're waiting for my weakness. You're waiting for a weak moment, right? And you're going to keep saying things to me, right? As a man, you can be saying things as a woman to me, as a man, about how the other ones couldn't handle me and didn't know what to do with me, and if you were And if I had a man like you, I would. Now, you probably was my ex's friend or my present woman's playmate. You get me? But you saying, you know how Tasha is, right? But I told her how I would handle that. And then Jeff falling for that. And he like, you would. See, I was trying to tell Tasha that. See, can you tell her that for me? And now he's starting to get that self-defeating nature. Yeah, because I'm a good man. Okay? And I'm always treated like I'm a bad man. And she walks up and she touches him and he starts to feel it. And then all of a sudden, the rooster rises up. And when the rooster rises up, here we go. And the hen is in the pen. Am I just telling the truth,
Yes,
or am I not telling the truth? Does it not happen like that? Does it not happen like that? Why y'all acting like it don't happen like that? Like her friend didn't sleep with her friend's man. Or his friend slept with his friend's woman. By accident. They just fell in there. We didn't mean to do it.
Okay.
I don't have those kind of things happen to me anymore like that.
Anymore?
Yeah, I don't have any accidents. I'm real intentional, man.
But you gotta admit there are some dark sides to all of us, right? So one of the things that I wanted to make sure that I do is to research and to study and to be aware so that as people come into my office, I can think about the things, as I said again, I think about this session after session after session, and I don't stop and say, let's deal with this.
Now, I think after each relationship or each disappointment that we kind of reinvent ourselves. Who you might have fell in love with 6 months ago or who you might have liked 6 months ago, I might not be that same person a year from now. So sometimes I don't like when someone expects me to be almost exactly who I was 1 year ago as to now, because I've experienced things and I've changed.
That's true.
And
So,
if you don't grow with me, if we
right,
don't grow
but
together-
also make people aware of your growth.
yes.
Right? You started off, the meatloaf was wonderful, but I've decided I don't like meatloaf.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of saying, oh, meatloaf, really just say before she even does it again, I used to like meatloaf, but I don't. You think. But this is not just about relationship, this is about a person recognizing what's inside of them. Whether you're in a relationship or you're not, you have what I call a stalker. You have a stalker. Whether you're in a relationship or you're not in a relationship, you have a stalker. So when people are either doing therapeutic sessions with me, or you're doing relationship coaching, or you're doing personal development, or you're doing business development, or you're doing anything, I've got to look to see if that person has a stalker. Now the stalker is not outside, the stalker is inside. And you got to say to yourself, I don't want to be ambushed by the stalker in me. I don't allow those characteristics to come that I talked about. When you understand that there are some characteristics of you that are not good, I don't want them to come out in my life and my relationship and sabotage my happiness. Because what I really believe is going on is that we are sabotaging our happiness.
I believe it.
We're sabotaging our happiness because we have a stalker. You got a stalker inside of you, and it's not going to come between me and my partner. It's not going to come between me and my future. It's not going to come between me and my money, me and my wealth, me and my well-being, me and my mental health, me and my peace. That stalker.
So would that be the same as getting in your own way?
It's the same as getting in your own way. Now, one of the things that, Jeff, that I do want to bring back to people's mindset, and that is that sometimes we're dealing with things like hostility, cruelty, childlike defensiveness, pathetically immature reasoning, accusations, counter accusations, blaming, shaming, exaggerations, denial. Those are those things that I'm talking about. When you become a victim because when you become most disconnected from your core consciousness that you can get, you have totally moved away from feelings of worth and dignity. Then you're cast into victimization. When you become a victim, you no longer feel worth. And sometimes people can say things that are triggering things within you, and you no longer feel your worth or your value. And you know what you'll do? Flailing in the water, sometimes depending on how you feel about the person and you don't want to lose, you'll do almost anything. Jeff said a big hell no. Can you imagine all the people that probably seen me in church be like, no, you didn't. Yeah, I did. Now, there's what we want to bring to the forefront of this, and I only want to deal with one. And what could really rain on your life and on your parade and stop your happiness and hold up your future is when you got somebody who is a scorekeeper. Now, sometimes you yourself can be a scorekeeper, right? Now, a healthy relationship is clearly a partnership, and partners cooperate. They support one another, and they depend on one another. They do not compete. Now, some competitive hardheads may be thinking, competition. I'm possessed by a bad spirit if I feel competitive. And then they're probably going to tell me, yeah, right. So if I feel competitive, I got a bad spirit. In a relationship, there can be no competition. What do you guys think?
There shouldn't be no competition. Why is there competition?
Because when it comes to your relationship, that's exactly right. There's nothing better than a great banter between a man and a woman. I love watching a couple playing their games of verbal volleyball.
As far as arguing? Or
Yeah.
Just, okay, I don't do that.
Teasing one another, swapping funny stories, joking about the other's eccentricness. And it is a great spark to their relationship. It's what's it called? It's a thing of fun. That's not competition when you're joking with one another. That's not competition, right? You said something about his shoe, and he said something about your rhinestone jacket and how you feel like a rhinestone cowgirl, right? And it's a joke. Right? And you say something funny about something else he has on. That's banter between the two of you. That's not competition unless one of you become a victim. Unless within that joking, one of you loses your worth.
You touch some feelings.
That's when
Feel offended.
that's when they feel offended. And when you operate out of offense, that's when you start saying things to another person. That could be extremely devastating. Now, but competition, real competition between partners can quickly turn a relationship into a battle of one-upmanship that can turn ugly. So competitiveness means scorekeeping. Now, if you allow your life with your partner to be guided by a tit for tat trading of favors and duties, or I'll do it for you if you do it for me, that is called scorekeeping. If you do this for me, I'll do this for you. Now, we don't recognize that, right? Because we think that's normal.
I don't.
You know?
I don't think it's normal. I don't like it.
You don't like
I
it?
don't like it either.
You don't like it either? But have you seen it?
Mm-hmm.
I've been through it.
You've been through it? What did you do?
You know, I would tell them, don't do something for me and then, you know, well, I did this for you.
Say you owe me that.
Yeah, like, you know, or I should do this because you did that. Like, no, you did that because you wanted to do that.
Okay, so, but let's make sure we give everybody an understanding when we talk about scorekeeping. Scorekeeping, you're in danger of turning what should be a maturely competitive, cooperative, and supportive relationship into a fight for leverage and the upper hand. Because if I do this for you, now you got to do something even greater for me. So now I'm going to use that as leverage, and I'm going to use that as the upper hand. Now you're going to get resentment in that relationship.
I used to tell someone, if you're doing something for me, do it from the heart.
Exactly.
Don't do it because you're expecting something back from me.
Does that work though in reality though, Jeff?
It's been working for me.
When you tell a woman that, she does that, or you tell your friend that, they do that.
Just make it clear that don't expect nothing from me. And if you come back with saying that I did this for you, I'll be like, I told you didn't have to do it.
So I like that. If I know, it doesn't matter how much money you make. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what it is. If I know you like an iPhone and you don't have the latest iPhone, because I could afford it, I just gifted you an iPhone. It's not your birthday. It's not Christmas. It's none of those things. I just gave you an iPhone because I thought about you. Or you may be wealthy enough to. I used to love shoes. My students love shoes. Shoes can be very expensive. It could be $1,100, maybe $1,500, maybe $2,500, maybe $850. They could be $495 on the lower end. But nevertheless, you know that I like those shoes, and so you're shopping and you just decide to gift me the shoes, but you're not expecting me to do anything, or you bought me an airplane ticket because you wanted me to go. But that doesn't mean that you want me to buy you something just as expensive or more expensive.
Right.
You did it, as Jeff said, out of the heart.
Right.
Now, do you find that to be usual? Is that the usual?
No, it's not the usual.
Okay. Do you think that people see that as abnormal and excessive?
Yeah.
I think mature people do. Some of the mature women that I've dealt with, they don't see it as excessive. They see it as me being nice.
Okay. Well, here's a note that I want to give you. True intimacy and caring is not a game. Nothing short of selfishness is in control when one or both of you are trying to justify privileges or claim entitlements as opposed to focusing on what the both of you or what you can give. So it becomes control and selfishness if I do something for you, and then my expectation is that you're going to do something for me. I am being selfish and I am being controlling. And I'm using that as a control mechanism. But now people always say, well, how am I controlling? We just explained it to you. How are you controlling? Now, what would you say as a woman to a man like that? Remember, you really like him, but that's his norm, that's his usual. He's used to having relationships like that. How would you help him move through that? Because you want to keep him.
No, make it known, like, you know, let's not, you know, let's agree to do things for each other out of the kindness of the heart and not use it as leverage for me to get you to do what I want you to do and vice versa.
Okay, what would you say, Jack? How would you help a woman or a child or a friend or anything understand?
Have a conversation. Have a conversation about, you know, what I do for you. I don't expect anything back, and hopefully you don't expect anything back when you do something for me. You're doing it because you want to do it.
Okay, real simple terms. If you're in my office and this argument comes up about what you do for leverage, then you may not even use those terms. You may say, "Well, I do things and they don't do things, and I feel like they're taking advantage of me," whatever. I would simply say, in any relationship, you are either a giver or a taker.
That is true.
One of you are going to play either role, one time or another. You're either going to be the giver or you're going to be the taker.
And is that 100% of the time, or that role changes?
You're always either a giver or a taker. Even if she came to you to offer herself to you, who's the giver and who's the taker? Instead of you always asking her for sex, she comes and she offers. Who's the giver and who's the taker?
I'll be the taker then.
I don't even know if I can finish. I am done.
Oh boy.
Takers keep score to justify the taking. Now, when the element of competition is added, your relationship will become a quid pro quo tussle dominated by the attitude, "You owe me." You cannot have a relationship with the attitude, "You owe me."
Very exhausting.
Now, think that it's very exhausting. Think about it. Now, competition by its very nature means that you have an adversary, an enemy, and how can you possibly be a winner if it is at the expense of making the person you supposedly love a loser? So when people come in my office, I have to be like, wait a minute. Is that the person you love? Because you guys are like street fighters to me, not lovers. You sure you want that? Now, what if I came in and stopped you and be like, hold on, wait a minute. Am I in the middle of a street fight? Like, is this an enemy camp? Because you cannot be in love with somebody and one is a loser. So the aim of the argument is for him to lose the argument and you to win. That's why you're saying what you're saying. Or is the aim of the discussion, let me change my words, because in court an argument means to share light. What is the intent of this argument? For me to lose or for you to inform me of something? Then that's what I would do. I'd be like, hold on, baby, hold on, because I'm a little confused at what's going on, because I don't understand what's happening. First of all, you are aggressive. You are raising your voice. And secondly, am I intended to be the loser? Because if we are, I'm going in another room, and when you're ready to discuss something with me, call me.
Hello.
Right? I still love you, but we're not going to do this. Because I'm going to sleep tonight. In my bed. Not in the guest room, not on the sofa, not in the lazy boy chair, surely not in the car.
Yeah, for me, as I've gotten older, I try to find women that I can talk to who want to discuss stuff and not, be aggressive, as you say, and come at me all aggressively. Because when that happens, I'm probably going to go to another room or shut down or whatever. I'm just not going to have that banter back and forth.
And a lot of people are in shutdown, believe it or not. So here it comes. How can you possibly expect to enjoy harmony in a relationship where one or both of you are fighting for leverage, power, and control? Solid relationships are built on sacrifice and caring, not power and control. So if you buy expensive airline tickets for me, you did it out of a sacrifice, out of a love. Jeff's called it love. Love is sacrificial. You sacrifice not keeping the money for something else just for me. That's care. You care about me. You care that I go. You want me to go. You want me to be there. You paid for the hotel. You didn't say, give me my money back. You care.
However, sometimes some people expect that, and
They do.
that's when you feel as a person who's the giver that I might need to cool off and I'm not going to do that anymore. Because that person kind of expects you to do all of these things, as opposed to just accepting it as a kindness. They don't thank you. They just kind of always think that you're going to do it,
So
and then that
how
becomes a
does-
whole different.
How does one in a relationship like that, how do you, if your partner, if you find that your partner is the one that's scoring, keeping score all the time, how do you mediate that? Like, what does that look like to get them to?
See, there's got to be a meeting of minds to have a relationship anyway. And I know I'm just about out of time, and I want to come back and I want to dive back into this and then take you into how to recognize it and then what it is that you're going to do. So let me give a great example. The joy of giving is completely lost when a husband picks out a beautiful dress and gives it to his wife, not as an act of kindness, but just to build up brownie points so that she is in debt and under his thumb. Or a wife who stays home babysitting the kids so her husband can go fishing with his buddies, not because she wants him to give him a relaxing gift, but because she wants him to owe her a big good time. That's what I'm talking about. Now you're in debt to me because I stayed home while you went out. So we're out of time, but I want you to think about the things that I've been saying to you. I want you to think about how we've been talking to you. I want you to think about where we are. And I want your comments. I want you to like. I want you to share. I want your comments. I want your questions. And if you send them in, we'll answer them. But in real life, this was good. This was necessary for people to understand, because I think people are living in a relationship with what I call bad spirits. And this is going to take me some time to get through. This was just the tip of the iceberg that I want to really offer help to people. So our closing, tell me what you guys think about what was presented tonight. Where's your mind? How do you feel about that? Helpful? Do you feel like people really need to deal with reality that there is a stalker, there are bad spirits in relationships within them? Remember, this is not totally about relationships. It's about you. But life is about you in relationship with life. So what do you guys think?
Well, I agree. I think that, even me as a person, I have baggage. So I have some bad tendencies that I'm trying to break. And as I mature, I'm getting out of them and I'm talking about them, with my therapist and just, trying to be a better me.
Remember what I said? You don't want a therapist who's going to keep you in what I call mental masturbation, right? We gotta face this. We gotta face this.
I don't have that problem.
We gotta deal with this. What's your thoughts?
Well, like I said before, it's really deep. Because we have to really understand why we deal with individuals that are manipulative that way. It's so many things, but
remember,
it's great.
we don't always want to deal with what's outside. Remember, I said you have a stalker.
Yeah, so
You live with a stalker every day.
as you were talking, I'm like, okay, so what is it about me that makes me deal with a situation like that or be that person.
Right.
What makes me not, all right, so later we're going to get into the difference between joy and happiness, right? What makes me not be happy in my life? What makes me not have joy in my life? Joy never goes anywhere. Happiness is always a score. It can go so low till it feels like it's not there, but it's there. It's kind of like breathing or a breath or a heart rate can drop so low you can barely tell it's there, right? But it always exists. The thing that you need to understand is people have the stalker. That thing that will come out when you feel like you are frustrated, when you feel like you are failing, when you feel like you're losing control, when you feel like things are out of control, something comes out. You gotta remember yesterday's teaching when I said he comes and he tell Jesus, they just beheaded your cousin. And instead of him rallying the people to go kill Herod, he said he left to go talk to God because he did not want to act out of his flesh. But then the scripture says he was tempted with everything just as we were, because he was very God but also very man. And what happened was the crowd followed him, and when the crowd followed him, even though he was mourning, he was in pain, he was hurt, he was confused, he was all the things you feel when somebody dies. Moved by compassion of the crowd, another anointing fell on him of healing, and the scripture says he just started healing people. So you got to remove yourself from this situation so that another mind comes in. Instead of me hitting you, instead of me cursing you out, instead of damaging words that we may not recover from, right? I got to deal with the stalker, the dark side. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Because if you don't, you will say something bad. You will, remember that movie, Get Your Back Sucker? I'm gonna get your back, sir.
I don't think I was born
Okay, you. I would say this again as we close off. Your comments, your thoughts, I want you, first of all, I want you to share. And I want you to get ready for things that are very impactful. As I said again, you want therapists to bring out some real things. And what we're going to be doing in the next few weeks, I'm going to call it real talk. We're going to do some real talk, not play talk, some real talk. And I want to see people heal from them within themselves. And I remember life is about relationships, decisions, choices. And we're getting into some real talk because this stuff can stop you from making money. It can stop you from building the relationships that you need to take your life to the next level. And it can stop you from enjoying the love that you should have in your life along the way. Right? I'm Dr. John Paul James, and you've been watching Living Life with Dr. John Paul James. And I want to thank our wonderful co-anchors again, the beautiful Tamara and the powerful Jeff. We'll see you next week.
Jesus.